Western values unfortunately got over to Poland. Poland ain't shit. I'm keeping it real. I will not go to Poland. Fuck no. Fuck no.
Don't come.
Because you're basically getting the same bullshit that you get in America, or similar, and you're getting less value for it. The girl I was with, she was nice and cool and chill, but you still have to like some sort of game and riz. It's not like when you just show
100%.
up, you go to one country, like you go to South America, or you go to Asia, Philippines, you just show up, you just be present, you smile, you have fun, you're not worrying about, is this girl like me, da-da-da, I'm gonna get laid, da-da-da.
Wow, so that passport bro, he actually deleted his channel. Such was the furore and backlash that he faced from Poles who saw the video. Cześć, Tere, my name is Connor Klein. I help high-level men, not passport bros, with living their dream lifestyle here in the region that I refer to as New Europe. So that includes Poland, which the video was about that I just reacted to, and the 3 Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. I'm actually here in Tallinn. And in 2025, this region is rapidly modernizing. The Polish or even the Baltic states passports, they're even more powerful than the American passport. So much for passport broism in this region. The costs are rising, the women are well educated with lots of options, so they're not desperate to be saved. However, if you are a high value guy, then this place could still be an amazing, luxurious playground for you, but you need to come with a long-term commitment, be cultured, presentable, and ambitious. With those qualities, you can do really well. So let me take a step back in time to when the weather was a bit warmer on the streets of Warsaw, and I'll explain to you why Poland and the Baltic states as well are no place for passport bros in 2025. Chodźmy, lachmy.
Experience.
So who exactly are the passport bros? Well, it's not really well defined. It's more or less a almost political movement of guys in particular leaving the US. Many of them tend to be black guys, and they start to use this term passport bros, but they're not really doing anything that novel in the sense that, well, guys have been leaving and immigrating for better opportunities abroad since time immemorial, and also going to somewhere where it's cheaper to live and you can work remotely. It's typical digital nomads. So it's more or less a group of digital nomads who are male, leaving normally the core Anglosphere and heading to places where the cost of living is dramatically cheaper, and in general the women are a lot better looking than back home. That's what I would say. Unfortunately, many of them tend to get associated with a lot of unsavory things like misogyny and using sex workers quite a bit, whether it happens to be sugar dating or just paying straight out for prostitution. But then some of the others who I see online, they seem to be kind of more normal guys just trying to find a good place where they're going to be treated better in general, and their dollar goes further, or their euro or their yen, and they're not willing to settle for the dating market back home, where obesity is a huge problem. In particular in the US, obesity and overweightness is over 50% of young women. So they want to hang out in countries, which is quite reasonable, where that is not an issue. So you get a whole mishmash, but the term passport bro in general tends to be quite negative. So in general, I wouldn't want to be associated or self-identify as a passport bro for that reason, but you may decide otherwise. So reason number one why I don't think this is the right destination for passport bros is actually the cost of living. Because whilst I promote coming here for better value, if you are very price sensitive and you're looking for a super cheap destination to go and live in, then countries like Poland or Czechia or the 3 Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, Romania, it is cheaper than in North America or Western Europe. Maybe it's going to be about, depending where you are from and where you're hanging out in exactly, could be, you know, from maybe 30, maybe up to 50% cheaper. But there are other parts of, say, Western Europe that are pretty comparable in terms of price. Like, say, you know, if you move to Spain or Portugal, it's probably not going to be much different in price from here in Warsaw, for example. And if you compare it to the more popular Passport Bro destinations like, say, Manila in the Philippines or Medellin in Colombia, it is way more expensive here in Warsaw. It's probably double the price. So that's the first thing. It's not super, super cheap. This idea of Central Europe or parts of Eastern Europe being absolutely destitute, and, you know, this kind of Euro trip stereotype, if you know the film from way back in the day, where, you know, you show up with a couple of dollars in your pocket and suddenly you're king of the city.
$1.83 American. What are we gonna get with that? Gotta love that exchange rate.
No, you're more or less 30 years too late for that phenomenon in this part of the world, and it still does exist to a certain extent in other parts of the world, and that's probably why those destinations are more popular with Passport Bros than here, at least for the moment, because, yeah, that's the main criteria that they have. One of the main criteria, it's that it's super cheap, and it's just not that crazy cheap here in most of Central Europe and Eastern Europe, or what I'm dubbing New Europe. And I'll put a video as to why I call it New Europe up in a card down below in the description if you are new to my channel. So that's a segue into the next reason Passport Bro shouldn't come here, and it's actually because of the dating options, or the dating life that you'll probably lead as a Passport Bro. Now, I'm assuming that if you are a Passport Bro, you don't speak Polish, you don't speak Ukrainian, you probably don't speak Russian, which, you know, can be useful in some parts of the region, less useful than it used to be, and or maybe Romanian in Romania or in Moldova. And the thing is that if you come here without the local language, without a local social circle, and you are not a male model, a billionaire, or very famous, you're probably going to struggle. Now, you might do a little bit better than back home. Probably not going to get rejected as harshly as maybe you're used to in the core Anglosphere, like if you come from the US or Canada or somewhere. But the reality is, having been here quite a lot over the last year with clients, with friends, is that I just haven't seen foreign guys with the same foreign guys say from the US or Canada or Western Europe with very beautiful Polish girls at all, unless they speak Polish and they have a very high level local social circle. I see them with girls who are, you know, that scale that most guys will understand, 1 out of 10 in terms of looks. I see them with 4s and below. I actually see them quite often with the, shall we say, plumper Polish girls. Yeah, there are a few girls here, even though obesity is very low in the region, there are a few that are overweight, and they tend to be the ones that you'll see with the foreigners here. So there are a lot of Ukrainians and Belarusians, you know, Warsaw in particular, and yeah, you do see some of those with the foreigners a little bit more, but you don't see the hottest of those girls either with the kind of Western European or North American who's here in Warsaw and doesn't speak their language, at least. So you're going to struggle vis-a-vis maybe how you get on somewhere else. This is the region, New Europe, so I just talked about Warsaw because it's the most popular for Passport Bros, but it can be the same in, you know, Moldova, Romania, Ukraine, up in the 3 Baltic states where I was recently with one of my clients. This is the region, on average, with the most beautiful women in the world, in my opinion. Way better than you're going to see in Latin America, even though I love Brazil personally. I have to say that the average level is way higher here, but you're not really going to get access to it unless, of course, as I said, you're a male model or you're a billionaire or you're super famous. Then, of course, yeah, then you can access that. So Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio shows up, I'm sure he doesn't have much of a problem, but if you're not one of those guys, and the reason I mentioned the male model thing is that one of my clients here sent me the profile of a guy who looks like a male model. And he said, well, he does pretty good. He looks like a Hollywood heartthrob, this guy. And he was kind of with girls, I'd say about a 7, maybe a little bit better looking. And my question was, why isn't he not with the 9s and 10s? And then it turned out, of course, that even though he lives in the most prestigious building in Warsaw, so he's wealthy as well, in shape, obviously, and tall, well-chiseled jawline. Yeah, that's his limitation because he doesn't speak Polish and he hangs around with other we'll say, foreigners of the similar background, and he doesn't have a local high-level social circle. So yeah, he's kind of handicapped himself, even though he does pretty well. So that's kind of the maximum you can expect. So if you think you're going to show up in Warsaw waving your American passports, shouting America, you know, times have moved on. You're 25 years too late to the party, maybe even 30 years too late to the party to be doing that. And using Tinder, I have a separate video on that. It's kind of a -2 compared to real life. Go check it out. I'll give you the reasons as to why that is in this region, and probably overall using Tinder. So yeah, that's what a lot of the foreign guys do. They hang around in the very obvious, I wouldn't say necessarily touristic bars and clubs, but kind of not with the, you know, the hottest of the hot. Don't have the local social circle. They go on Tinder. You're kind of like limited in what you can access in reality. That is a reason not to be a passport bro, although with the caveat that this is the region in the world with the most beautiful women, in my opinion. And also, you know, you're gonna, if you have access to the best of the best here, then yeah, the women are gonna be caring, loyal, intelligent, educated, well-mannered, stylish. There are lots of great reasons, but you're just not gonna have access to it. That's what I see around here every day when I walk in Warsaw. You just don't see the top level girls with foreign guys in general. Again, unless they have high-level local social circle or they speak the local language. So the next reason why this region is not the best for passport bros is long-term residency, because in general, you are limited to 90 days every 180 in the Schengen area, which is not exactly the European Union, but overlaps pretty much. And that means, for example, if you spend 90 days here in Poland and you want to hang out in Czechia or Slovakia or maybe Latvia and Lithuania, then you have an issue because you will be overstaying your allotted days in the Schengen area. And it is more expensive to get long-term residency or to get citizenship here. You need to invest a significant amount of money into a property to first get residency, and then some of the countries may offer you citizenship in the long run, but it is not, you know, you're looking at probably €250,000 or what's that, but closer to $300,000 investment in order to qualify for that. So the typical passport bro doesn't have that cash available. As a result, they're limited to the 90 days every 180. I mean, if they go to Ukraine or Moldova, it's not in Schengen. So there, for example, you get another 90 days every 180. So you could go between the two countries, but it does make it more complicated if you're, you know, focused, say, here on Warsaw in Poland. And yeah, what are you going to do after 90 days? Now, there is an exception for American citizens only. There's actually a separate agreement. And then you can just leave every 90 days outside of Schengen, come back in here. And that's why you see the content creators who promote being passport bro in this region, they actually focus on Poland because, well, this is the one country where it's a lot easier for them to hang out in most of the year without actually having to pay to get residency. And actually many of those guys tend to be Asians, actually. For some reason, either Asian Americans or Asian Canadians or just Asians from Asia. I don't know what the phenomenon is. It is true that here the security is a good bit better, personal security, not with respect to obviously our neighbors Russia, but yeah, in terms of petty crime stuff, it is a lot less here than, say, in other places like Medellin, Colombia, which, you know, has a huge barrage of not just muggings and theft, but also murders of passport bros, right? Foreign guys who go to Medellin. It's probably the most popular destination for passport bros in the world, but it seems to be like the murder capital for passport bros. So as I'm giving you a reason why it's harder to stay long term, that is actually probably why they decide to come here to Warsaw if they are going to focus on this region, and possibly it might be because, yeah, personal security is better here than definitely in Colombia for sure. So the next reason why it sucks being a passport bro in New Europe is that you're going to face a language barrier in a way that you're probably not expecting, right? Because the level of English here is actually pretty high in Poland or in the Baltic states or Romania, for example. I think it's even higher than in Poland. Especially most young people in the big cities, most of them speak decent English. But the problem becomes when you want to build a social circle and have a social life here in, say, Warsaw, and you don't speak Polish. Because even though you can do all the touristic stuff, go to the restaurant, order, that's not going to be an issue. When you want to make friends and join a social group, it's going to be very hard with locals if you don't speak Polish, because that's the kind of expectation here, in particular in Poland. You know, Polish is spoken by over 40 million people. It's a pretty big country. It has a lot of immigrants here, primarily from Ukraine, Belarus, Central Asia. And because of their languages being somewhat related to Polish, they more or less all learn Polish. Also, to be able to socialize and get invited to events or social gatherings. The reality is that if you get invited to these things, nearly everybody's going to speak in Polish all the time. And really, to get invited, you probably need to speak Polish. So basically, overall, it is a lot harder here without the language. So you're going to have to learn language like Polish. Polish is really hard. It's going to be a commitment of, realistically 2 to 4 years to learn it. So almost no passport pro is going to learn. Actually, very few foreigners, unless they have a Polish girlfriend over a long time, I'd learn Polish from what I see here. And it could be another country like Ukraine, could be learning Ukrainian, could be, Baltic states, maybe they're a little bit more accommodating because their languages are smaller. It's a big commitment. And what happens is, because passport pros don't want to learn the language, and I'm saying that even though I've seen other passport bros, some of them say that learn Spanish, learn the local language, help you, particularly with dating. We'll get to that in a sec. Because they don't learn Polish, they basically hang out with each other, other passport bros. And that's not seen as a particularly high value social circle by the locals either. To be hanging around with a group of foreigners who just hang out together basically and just speak English together, and yeah, it's not a very Polish experience. So that's going to be a big handicap in this region, is the fact that, you have these languages take a long time to learn. It's not like learning Spanish, which a lot of Americans in particular have, high school Spanish, they have an exposure to it. They have a lot of Latinos in their homeland. Yeah, it's just a lot easier to learn Spanish, having learned Spanish, and now I'm learning Polish. But yeah, it's a lot quicker. It probably takes about half the time, maybe a third of the time to learn Spanish compared to Polish. So the languages here tend to be more difficult, and yeah, it's probably catches a lot of people out that socially it's going to be very difficult if you don't learn the local language to actually live the kind of lifestyle you probably want to live if you come here. And the final reason I'd say that this is not the spot for the stereotype I've given of a passport pro. There may be people who identify passport pros who don't confirm the stereotype, but it's mentality actually, because if you are looking to escape the West because it's collapsing and it's degenerate and all these other things that a lot of the alt media, shall we say, promotes, then why are you coming to another part of the West? Here in Europe, here we're in Warsaw, Poland, which is, it's 20 years, it's been part of NATO. It's been part of the European Union. This is the West. It is not Eastern Europe. That's another thing. If you see a content creator who lives in Warsaw, here in Poland, and keeps calling this Eastern Europe, they're either a complete moron or they're a bit of a charlatan. They know that, okay, well, most Americans probably, or most people haven't been here much, no matter where they're from, they don't understand that this is not Eastern Europe. This is Central Europe. There's an important reason as to why we make that distinction, because Eastern Europe, if we're going to call anywhere Eastern Europe nowadays, it's going to be Russia, or maybe Belarus as well. And basically, Eastern Europe is associated with extreme poverty and basically in the Russian sphere of influence. And here, this is the West, and it's pretty developed. Predictions that Poland will overtake the United Kingdom in terms of GDP per capita by 2030. Now, maybe that won't happen, but it's catching up fast, right? The infrastructure here in Warsaw is really good. So, if you're trying to escape the West, why you come into another part of the West, of course, that's going to make it harder for you to integrate with locals here. Now, of course, a lot of these guys, I think, they just hang out with each other and they can all complain about the West and how terrible it is. And it's great that we're in Eastern Europe, as they call it, but they're not in Eastern Europe. That's the thing. You're just not going to have much in common with the local people around here. It's kind of incongruent. Like if you hate the West, then, go somewhere that's not the West. Because you're not escaping it by coming to, Poland or Ukraine or, 3 Baltic states or Czechia. These places are the West. Now, in my opinion, there are way better parts of the West to live in. So if you're trying to escape the core Anglosphere, then I agree. But it's important to understand the differences because, yeah, the values that are promoted by a lot of the media outlets that talk about the collapsing West and normally support Russia. In general, you're not going to find the values that they're promoting here in countries like Poland, Ukraine, the three Baltic states I was saying. In Europe, you're just not going to find them because this is just a different part of the West. So definitely mentality, if you are that way inclined, which a lot of passport bros are when I watch their content, at least the content creators, or when I meet guys who travel here, and a lot of them hold those kind of views. This is just not the best spot for you in the world. You're going to find people with those views in other parts of the world where they hate the West, and you can go hang out there. Some of those places are super cheap, and some of them presumably even have good-looking women. Because imagine you have a Polish girlfriend. How's the talk going to be at the dinner table with her family? If you don't speak, well, probably better you don't speak Polish and hope they don't understand you. If you're like pro-Putin and anti-West and anti-NATO and think that it's terrible that the place has improved so much economically, you're probably just it's not gonna gel very well over the long term for you. And anyways, let's move on for that because I should be telling you about who should come here and how I help my clients. So I spent this video telling you about how the stereotype that I've described of a passport bro should not come to New Europe. Should go to other parts of the globe and live the lifestyle that they're looking for. But I obviously am here a lot, and I am helping my clients who want to come from between 3 to 12 months a year. And there are people who may even identify as passport bros who may actually be suitable for my services. Because I do actually have one client who identifies as a passport bro, much to my chagrin, but that's the way he identifies. And if you're a higher level guy, you're making good money, you're in shape, you can get a date back home in the US, but dating market is pretty bad over there if you're a single guy, especially if you're high level, because, well, on average we have an obesity problem in the core Anglosphere. Whether it's US, Canada, the UK, Ireland, even my home country, also got a bit of a problem with overweightness. And girls here are on average way better looking, but you are able to provide some value. You're not a desperado, a loser back home, shall we say, coming over here desperately trying to, find someone. I saw a phrase recently. It said, all the hotties are in the VIP if you go to the club in the US. Well, here you can be the VIP if you are with the insider, and that is what I'm known as by my clients. And if you're a guy, high-level guy looking to relocate to this region for 3 to 12 months a year, single guy, want to max out your potential, then you are in good hands with me. You are going to have the VIP treatment. We're going to go party. You're going to have access to my local social circuit. You're not going to be a Billy No-Mates or relegated to hanging out, in the queue for a general admission nightclub because you don't have a table at the best spot, or hanging around with, other immigrants from North America who are fleeing the decadent West, but, not really able to fit in here, don't have the connections, or maybe just the knowledge, like the know-how, how to excel in this region in terms of lifestyle. Now, if you're new to the channel, please go and check out 3 playlists. First one, it's going to be a series of vlogs that I've shot in this region. Could be a few client testimonials in there as well. Give you a bit more of the flavor of what to expect on the in-person experience with me. Second one is like a series of tutorials for dating the uber beautiful of the region, the 9s and 10s. Even if you're not planning to date a 9 or a 10, you're just looking for a soft 6, well, you probably learn a good bit from watching that anyways. And then the third one is my Vodka series. There I go in depth, deep into the mindset of the people of this region. There's over 50 hours of content. So be selective. I don't recommend you sit down and binge watch it for over 24 hours. Pick out the titles that appeal to you in that series. Going to put all 3 of those up on cards. Now, the in-person experience with me, Connor Klein, the insider, also known as the Special Forces by one of my other clients for this region. I was actually just up with him. He was here first in Warsaw, and then we went to Vilnius in Lithuania and then to Riga in Latvia. It is by application only, because it has to be a good fit for us to work together. And there is an application form down below. Now, which cities I'm helping my clients with? We're into the springtime here. Actually, the sun just sat there. Let me see. I can take off the shades maybe at this point, since I'm not been blinded by that very hot sunshine. And it's not typical weather for Warsaw, Poland all year round, but it is typical in the summertime. It's actually got beautiful weather here, and the city changes. Everyone comes out. They're not wearing their winter clothes. It's really, for me, a summer city, Warsaw in particular. A lot of the city is new. A lot of the city was unfortunately destroyed during World War II. And of course, you have the pretty Poles. If you're looking for the good dating options, you have the cute Ukrainians and the beautiful Belarusians. And actually, with my clients, we focus on the Belarusian and Ukrainian communities here, diasporas, because they have a lot of great, amazing places to hang out in and socialize in Warsaw. Plus, because they have come as recent immigrants, they're not in set social circles. So it is a little bit easier from that point of view with Belarusians and Ukrainians to make friends and to socialize than it is with Poles, because they're living in their home country and they've already got set social circles, often from childhood or from university days. So it can be a bit harder to break into that. And as I said, local language is going to be important in general with all of them, but probably because the two diaspora communities are also immigrants, probably a little bit more forgiving also on the language front. Also been going to Riga, the land of the leggy blonde, because Latvians are some of the tallest people in the world and some of the blondest. I could also say the same to a certain extent beyond that in Estonia and Tallinn, and to a lesser extent maybe in Vilnius in Lithuania, but definitely people are super tall there. Not as blonde as the Latvians, but I have also been with my clients up in Vilnius and also to Kaunas in Lithuania. So lots of options in the Baltic states. Also been going quite a lot. Was very heavy in the second half of 2022 and part of 2023, and that is crazy Chisinau, a couple of mad Moldova, and partying, especially in the summertime there as well. Very interesting. Chisinau gives probably the closer you're going to get in terms of an experience culturally to Ukraine without having to be in Ukraine. Obviously, this is the time of the Russo-Ukrainian war, and not so many guys are going to Ukraine at the moment. I do have some clients who are going back to invest in real estate in Ukraine and also to get residency. They're normally guys who are actually married to Ukrainians or engaged. So they've got a bit of a different setup to the single guy. And finally, I'm actually about to leave pretty soon and go back to Kazakhstan. Now, I know Kazakhstan is not normally what you associate in terms of Europe, but there is a small part of Kazakhstan's territory on the European continent. So we could say it's in the far east of Europe to a certain extent. And when you go to the big cities like Almaty or the capital Astana, then it's kind of around 15% European descent and 85% Asian. So it does have New Europe vibe to it, but of course it is also just off the steppes of Central Asia. So yeah, it is also predominantly Asian, of course. But in any case, it is full of very friendly Kazakhstanis. And Almaty in particular, which is the southern city, used to be the capital of Kazakhstan, it has amazing nature, lakes, canyons, mountains. You can go skiing in the winter, just a stone's throw away from Almaty. So really phenomenal place in terms of its natural beauty. It's also a good place to set up yourself for a superior lifestyle than you're going to get for your money in the core Anglosphere, in my opinion. That is all the way over in Kazakhstan. So those are the cities I'm going to with clients. So down below in the description to this video is the application form. And to close out the video, as I often do, in the words of a Canadian ice hockey legend with origins from this region. He has Polish, Belarusian, and Ukrainian origins. That is Wayne Gretzky. And he said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So down below in the description to the video is the application form. Go fill it out, because even if you're not a good fit for the in-person experience, there may be other ways that I can help you. And if it works out, it'll be you with me here having an absolutely unforgettable time on the in-person experience. Maybe it's going to be right here this summer in Warsaw, Poland. What are you waiting for? Bye-bye, and maybe see you soon here in Warsaw, Poland, or somewhere else in New Europe.